Welcome back, everybody. We're underway for our Wild Race with Alexander Lynn and Sly Zuru. If they want to introduce themselves in the couch, they can go ahead.
Sure, I'll go first. Sorry, I thought Limcube might have said something. Hi, my name is Alexandra Lynn, and today we've got Sly, who I'm racing, and Limcube, who's going to be commentating for us. Did you want to introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Sly.
Yes.
I'm an 80% runner for Breath of the Wild.
Nice, and I'm Limcube. I run this game sometimes too, and I'm going to be commentating. I wanted to give the runners, who are obviously the real stars of the show, a chance first to say hi, but I'm going to be explaining some of the strats. I'm going to be explaining the intricacies of the Breath of the Wild any percent speedrunning race. That makes a little bit of a difference compared to a normal run. There's a lot of different things that we need to pay attention to when we see two people race at the same time. Sometimes there's different routes. Sometimes there's those big run killers that could potentially cause for some exciting moments as these two race to beat the game as fast as possible. Breath of the Wild, pretty notorious speed game. I'm not sure who here has seen it before. Probably started off a little bit slow, but always an interesting speed game because the game is so open and you are basically allowed to beat the game right away as soon as you're done with the tutorial section. And the speedrun is obviously going to take advantage of that, but it's obviously going to speed things up even more by doing tons of glitches, tons of big skips. The runners are gonna be preparing their file here. The official timing only starts once you gain control of Link, so after the first initial cutscene, and that's when the race is on. So as soon as the runners are ready, we can take it from there.
All right, I'll count down just for Alex and I to press the new game button, and I'll mention when to start the timer. All right, so on go. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck, guys. Breath of the Wild's any percent definitely a tricky run. And like I just introduced over the years, it's changed a lot. We are basically gonna start the run off with the first skip literally in the room where Link wakes up. Again, this game has seen like a huge development, specifically in 2019. I want to say 2018, 2019. The game kind of changed from running around in the tutorial section to then ride to the boss fights with a horse and then beat the bosses as quick as possible. If you have somehow, which is basically almost impossible, never played Breath of the Wild or never heard of the game, which is unlikely but possible, it is the newest entry in the 3D Zelda series. You wake up after a 100-year slumber, saving Hyrule, and usually you have this huge open world to discover, where there's 4 major dungeons. Beating those dungeons gets you stronger to actually beat the final boss, Calamity Ganon. We are not going to do any of that. We're going to beat a tutorial and then...
interrupt.
Oh.
True.
And time starts now.
Timer starts now. Okay, I was talking too much then.
You're okay.
Yeah, when we gain control of Link, that opening cutscene proved to have some inconsistencies with loading in the past, so the community decided that's when the timing starts. We are going to have to pick up the Sheikah Slate here, which is a pretty lengthy cutscene, and if you haven't noticed yet, the runners are playing the game in French. French ends up saving some time. Usually in speedruns it's common knowledge that different languages can save time. Japanese is usually the one that people look for because less characters means less text, right? But in this case, text is actually not what saves time, but voice acting. And we see here the runners are going to be clipping out of the Shrine of Resurrection using a trick called Scope Clip, using the scope feature from the Sheikah Slate, lining up Link in the wall, and they are able to enter Hyrule this way, or exit the Shrine of Resurrection. And this has some big advantages. First of all, you can actually skip the first cutscene of the game, the big infamous intro cutscene where you see the game's logo and get an overview of the game world, and the time in the game is locked to 5:15 a.m. The time will never change. It will always be 5:15 a.m., which means there's predictable weather. The runners know how the weather's gonna be. There's not gonna be any skeleton enemies disrupting them, and obviously, additionally, that time save from skipping the cutscene at the start is quite big. Now, you can already see both runners are going into the cold area here without picking up any cold food, without getting the warm doublet. So they're gonna have to go fast here and avoid any obstacles possible. They also did pick up some extra food, which will help because we're gonna encounter, and it's an infamous camp for most runners, a Bokoblin camp here right at the start. That can definitely be a little troublesome. One big thing here is Zelda just talked to us. Not everybody here probably speaks French, but what she said is she wants us to go to where the Sheikah Slate is guiding us, but we will not do. Sheikah Slate is guiding us to the tower. The tower is very slow though. Activating the tower is like a 3-minute cutscene. The tower comes out of the ground, and we can skip that. But one big problem with skipping the tower is the shrines that we need to complete on the Great Plateau will be locked, and that's gonna basically demand that we have to do a different strategy to enter them. Alex did end up getting hit there. This is what I was talking about. These Bokoblins are unpredictable. It's super annoying and RNG heavy, but recovered by eating some of those mushrooms. Very nice. And Sly is now starting his wall clip, and this is how we enter shrines at this time. By getting skew, which is a mechanic in this game. When you land your shield on a slanted surface, the game remembers that position. So when you are basically surfing against the wall, the game remembers the position Link is in. When he's surfing against the wall, it's pretty complicated, but essentially it allows us to clip through walls. By then shield surfing again, that position gets basically replayed, and Link gets kind of like, I don't know, tilted back into the wall. It's a little bit complicated to explain, but we will do this for ideally 3 of the shrines, likely 4, all 4 of the shrines on the Great Plateau. Now, a couple of common questions that come up is why don't you just go to the boss fight right away? And this is obviously the infamous one restriction that we do have right now. The plateau, the Great Plateau, you can't leave the Great Plateau. You can't be anywhere in the game world without the paraglider. Otherwise, you get voided back out to the Great Plateau. It's like the barrier skip of this game. It's not a barrier, though. The Great Plateau is not really encased in a barrier. It's just like you can't be anywhere but the Great Plateau. And in order to leave the Great Plateau, you need to get the paraglider. And the paraglider you can only get by completing 4 shrines. And the only 4 shrines we can realistically complete are the ones with the runes. So we are going to get all 4 runes: Stasis, Cryonis, Magnesis, and then the Bombs rune, which is going to be super useful anyway. Stasis 2, and we'll see that soon. Also, another question: you cannot skip the rune and just go to the monk. The monk will tell you that you need to get the rune, and you can also not just get the rune and then leave the shrine. So you need to do both. One interesting thing here, very weird mechanic: you want to wait a little bit after finishing that, actually any shrine. For some reason that causes the game to load quicker, so don't get surprised. The old man, mysterious old man, nobody knows who this is.
Nope, not at all.
It's going to show up. Nobody's any
idea.
idea who this could be.
No.
Also, I didn't even mention very cool jump over the boulder there. Using the shield surf mechanic, which is something we'll use many times. Using the shield surf mechanic mid-air, you are basically granted kind of like a double jump. Small optimization: you can pick the right text selection here, basically deciding what dialogue to pick. You can save some time, and then we'll immediately make use of our first rune we just got, the Stasis rune. So if you stasis objects in this game and then hit them, you can basically transfer momentum into those objects. We're going to do that with the boulder here to jump up this cliff, kind of like an elevator. And then we're going to see the first major trick, the bullet time bounce. By manipulating the Bokoblins on the ground here, using the bow and arrow, you can actually shield jump onto them. And when you then bullet time, Link colliding with the enemy causes the enemy to ragdoll, pushing Link away. That happening in bullet time messes the game up quite a bit and causes this interaction basically to speed up. You can see how Link is basically soaring through the air. It's a very tricky skip, and super useful, obviously. You could also see how when Sly was landing after that BTB, he was basically throwing the X mid-air, which allows us to avoid taking any fall damage. That's called a fall damage cancel. Since we don't have the paraglider yet, it's basically required to do that. Looks like the second try here for Alex will work out too. Very nice. Making her way to the Cryonis Shrine now. And this is already, since this is obviously a race, we're gonna see different views basically from now on. And I'm already gonna hint towards something in the future, which is the big boss fight. But first, I'm actually interested if Sly is gonna go for the strat.
Well, you never know.
You never know. Sly does have a YouTube tutorial for this one, so I'm expecting this to work out first try. Very nice.
My favorite.
Kind of using that fall damage cancel mechanic I was talking about earlier to reset Link's position in the air there, which allows Link to basically jump again, basically a double jump, allowing Sly to skip the entirety of the shrine. And not only that, also using a little Cryonis block there, jumping up to the ledge on the other side, skipping the entire shrine with like 2 jumps. Again, since this is a race, we are going to see different perspectives from now on. But the one big thing with any Breath of the Wild race is the boss rush at the end. So since we're going to be skipping all of the Divine Beasts, we're going to see Sly do the next bullet time bounce here. We are going to have to fight all 4 Blights, which are the bosses from the main dungeons, and Calamity Ganon at the very end. If any of the runners dies to one of those boss fights, they are going to have to start all the way from the beginning. So a race in this game is never decided until the very end. Second BTB, Sly does not quite manage to make it all the way to the Magnesis Shrine, and that's fine. The main intent for this BTB, Bullet Time Bounce, BTB is the abbreviation, is to just get out from that cold mountain. But ideally, this Bullet Time Bounce can actually get you all the way to the Magnesis Shrine, and I think you can kind of see it on Sly's screen there for a little bit. If you make it to the shrine optimally, the shrine will be in an unloaded state where the door of the shrine has not yet loaded in, and you can actually just walk in. The elevator is there, but again, we do have a clip, very fast execution there, that allows us to go into the shrine as well. So Alex is gonna go for a mechanic called Slate Storage here. And we'll see that as soon as this BTB is done. It looks like a nice angle. What Slate Storage does is a pretty tricky combination of inputs that allows you to store an animation. There's a unique animation that only plays once per new file where Link pulls out the Sheikah Slate looking at the map. And that's actually going to allow Alex to land very close to the shrine here without taking any damage. Unfortunately, still not getting the unloaded shrine, which is very much, as much as we want to find a consistent way, not consistent right now. We don't really know exactly what causes the shrine to stay unloaded. It is a time set, but again, for Alex as well, very fast clip into the shrine. And beautiful BTB, and also showcase of the Slate Storage. Fall damage cancelling, if you're that close to the ground, can get quite tricky, so that Slate Storage is an alternative. It loses a little bit of time setting up, but very nice strat. And the Magnesis Shrine is very boring. Sly, on the other side, basically just running through, using motion controls and the D-pad a little bit to optimize the door openings and the block pushing, but it's pretty much just that. There's some fancy strats that basically don't save any time, but right now the shrine is just running. And again, using the shield serve mechanic as a double jump. Now, Bombs is a very intense split. Not only is Bombs the most useful rune in the game at this point, but getting there is also quite tricky. There's multiple approaches on how to do it. And it looks like Sly is going to opt for the so-called box walk. Quite obvious why it's called box walk. You're literally going to walk on a box, stasising it and walking backwards is the intent. Not working out, but very nice reaction there. Basically switching the box walk into a fall damage cancel to not take any additional damage. Ideally, you can walk on that box, crossing the river, but no big deal here because that box was not going to take us all the way to the bomb shrine. It was only going to take us to the Bokoblin camp that we can see on Sly's screen now. This Bokoblin camp, notorious for being super annoying because there's no real setup for this BTB. You just kind of wait for this guy to walk up and then go for it. And then ideally, and this looks good, Link is going to be on his way to the bomb's shrine, which is already going to be shrine number 4. The Great Plateau with this, with these tricks is extremely fast. And again, there's no chance for this shrine with current strats to be unloaded, so we are going to have to clip into it by doing this like skew trick again, and then clipping again to enter the elevator. Very nice. Now, Alex is going for, personally, I think this still looks cooler. The slap launch here, kind of surfing on the other side, not quite making it all the way over there as well, but further than Sly in this case. There's so many different strats for the split now. You can go for the slap, you can go for the box, you can go for a stasis bounce, which gets you all the way to the shrine. You can go for one of the new glitches. Pretty much preference. This camp, again, notorious for being very annoying. Okay, looks like we got a little arrow in the podlet there for style points on Alex's screen. A little souvenir.
That's right.
Got to keep it.
You gotta keep it for the whole run now.
Think I could take it into the fight with the plates?
Maybe.
Ideally. A souvenir, a reminder to how annoying these Bokoblins can get. So I didn't even get to explain this in time. Sly's already flying through half of the shrine. This is why bombs are pretty much agreed upon the most useful rune in the game. Actually, there's another glitch recently that makes them even more useful. But that's a very interesting clip. A Link, I don't know what Link was trying to enter there on Alex's screen, but it worked somehow. Link going into the ground.
It worked.
But yeah, that's a wind bomb. So this trick was found in September 2019. I said earlier that was like the biggest year for the game, in my opinion. And basically, we are using again bullet time, which is just completely broken in this game, to align Link with both of the bombs that he gets in the shrine. So the first bomb is the round bomb, usually, and the second bomb is the square bomb. You then blow up the round bomb, which catapults the square bomb into Link, and that momentum you are allowed to keep in the game. Right now, without the paraglider, they're not even that useful, but they're still nice. In this case, they allow us to skip basically the entire shrine. Later, when you get the paraglider, you get to keep that momentum into the paraglider. You can literally fly anywhere, and it broke the game completely. Very nice showcase of the trick again on Sly's screen. Very nice landing there too. That's even a little bit out of your control, and is then gonna come up to this tree and hopefully eventually find a mighty beetle. So a mighty beetle is a critter that you can pick up that gives you a buff, and it's an attack up buff. We're going to use that beetle to later prepare a potion that we will use to buff Link's attack. The strongest attack up buff, the level 3 attack up buff, increases his attack damage by 50%, and that ends up being worth it when we have to fight 5 bosses essentially, with like a huge health pool. The game is again not intending us to get there that quick, so we're taking any help we can get, and the level 3 attacker potion is huge. Now that's it. The Great Plateau. The mysterious old man who nobody knew was actually gonna be. Oh my god. Okay, no, I feel actually too. I feel too bad. I can't do it. But that's the paraglider, and the second we get the paraglider here, that huge box basically around the plateau is lifted, and you can actually go wherever you want. We only want to go to Hyrule Castle to beat the game. And you can see actually on Alex's screen, this is why wind bombs right now actually not that broken yet, because if you don't have the paraglider and you end up flying too high, you will die. The paraglider makes it a lot easier now, but Sly will now show what the paraglider can do ideally. And that actually looks really good. It might be a little low, I'm not sure. I'm not used to this camera angle. The idea here is to now use the paraglider after a bullet time bounce to take all of that momentum to glide all the way to Hyrule Castle. And ideally, this bullet time bounce can literally get you from the Great Plateau to Hyrule
It's too
Castle
low.
in one go. But like we observed, this one looks a little bit low. So the runners will actually go for 2 different routes here. There's been a reroute of Hyrule Castle in March this year. For the longest time, we used to go kind of to the right side of the castle. Now we go to the left side in the fastest route to the Royal Guards, the guard room or something. That's actually funny because in 2017, when the game came out, that's where the run used to go. We then changed it. Now we go back there. There's some pretty powerful weapons there. Specifically the Royal Guards Claymore. Pretty bad durability, but 72 damage. And a bunch of ancient arrows, which seem useless because we're not going to be one-shotting anything, but they have an extremely high damage output. And we're going to use that to our advantage when we fight the bosses. So this looks better, and on that route where we go to the left, there's actually a huge moment coming up right at the beginning. When we get to the Royal Guards chamber, ideally we want the door to that chamber or the gate to not be loaded yet, so we can just enter, because the entrance that we ideally want to take, and this looks a little low, so okay, everything is still unloaded right now. Let's see, that gate is weird. Like sometimes it loads when you're right in front of it, sometimes it doesn't load. And it looks like it will be loaded for Sly. So there's a bunch of different options you can go for here. The Guardian is not going to make this any easier.
Not at all.
Ideally, this gate does not exist. So there's multiple backup options for that, and that is very unfortunate. That Guardian, no matter how much health you have, will end Link's life for now.
Unfortunate.
So what Sly was going for there is a shield clip again, because you can actually still enter the gate, or not the gate, but the room by clipping through the wall. There is an alternative entrance. It's kind of like on the other side though, and a little bit out of the way. So ideally that clip works out. It's actually very, I think, unusual that the Guardian there is loaded before the rest of the castle is loaded, or that he sees you. Super unfortunate. Well, we are synced up now. Both runners trying to make probably the hardest bullet time bounce in the run work. And then we go again. The problem is, for Sly now, at least in my experience, when you make it to Hyrule Castle on your file, every attempt afterwards, the gate is more likely to be loaded because the game like kind of remembers that you've been there, and that makes it a little bit tricky. Now, Alex is actually going to go for basically our newest big glitch, the BLSS, or Bow Lift Smuggle Slide, discovered pretty much a month ago. And this is actually a great alternative to the bullet time bounce. By smuggling Link's bow, you basically get into a sliding state where Link is kind of like on ice. If you then hold an object, like a bomb, that bomb will actually push Link being on the ice. The game actually doesn't check if he's on the ground or not, so you get to fly around. And what Alex was doing there is basically moving Link from left to right, accelerating, trying to fly to Hyrule Castle. Now, the tricky part with this is that while you're doing the wiggling, the left and right flicking of the stick, you can never hold neutral on the stick. If you happen to do that, which is very easy to do and happens to pretty much everybody all the time, Link will just fall down. We see now Sly has entered the Royal Guards chamber and already got some of the most broken weapons there. And a rush room, which is actually important, again, for the attack buff. Now, throwing a bomb here will completely confuse this Lizalfos, so you get to sneak strike it, which has like a, I think, ×8 damage multiplier. So you do 8 times the damage. Also picking up the boomerang there, which is going to be important for the boss fights, and going for another scope clip. This is the same clip that we've seen earlier. And now this is the crazy part. I didn't actually know you were going for this route. Going for and nailing it, very impressive. Another wind bomb, but this time mid-air, reaching a different part of the castle and going back in bounds. I couldn't even explain how Sly got out of bounds and he was already back in bounds. But essentially traveling through the castle out of bounds. manipulating this Moblin. This Moblin has actually not seen Link yet, so Sly is still able to sneak strike him, getting that ×8 damage multiplier, which will one-shot the Moblin and giving us access of another weapon. This Moblin will also drop some parts that we can use to extend the duration of our attacker potion. I don't know if you're gonna go for the guts here. The Moblin guts do add the most duration to this potion, which is gonna add some safety. And these crates usually have a decent amount of arrows. I see some bomb arrows, which are nice to have, but since I already picked up the Royal Guard's bow, he will actually should be fine damage-wise. Might not even need those bomb arrows. Potential backup, but Sly has confidence here. Is gonna leave the bomb arrows.
Yeah, Lim fine.
There. Alex has now reached the dining hall. I actually didn't see if you already got a banana.
I did, thankfully. First try.
Okay, very nice. That banana on the old castle route only has a 50, and this is actually very interesting. We see the runners meeting in the dining hall here now. Sly came through the Royal Guard's chamber into the armory and now up to the dining hall. Is going to cook the potion there. Now Alex is going to go through the dining hall, back into the armory, and then back up to the dining hall. The big difference in this route is actually the equipment that both of these runners will be gathering. Sly was able to gather the Royal Guard's Claymore and some super strong weapons. Ancient arrows, 3 ancient arrows, is going to have an advantage in the boss fights. But it's also obviously done with the dining hall now. Distracting those moblins, you can see enemy eye. There's a lot happening at the same time. I'm trying my best to catch everybody up to speed, but Sly was able to make the level 3 attacker potion, which is gonna help defeating all of the bosses and going for 2 additional wind bombs. This is our way to the Sanctum, where we're gonna fight the bosses. And even though Sly is in the lead right now, again, this gauntlet of boss fights takes up to 6 minutes. And if you at any point do die, you have to start all the way from the beginning. So you can lose up to 6 minutes here. Everything can change. Alex getting some arrows there. I didn't see if those the best of arrows. Those arrows can actually be very RNG heavy.
They were okay.
They're okay, nice. And speaking of arrows, Sly just fired one in the middle of nowhere. Why would you possibly do that?
I think I got it.
For no reason at all. No, I'm kidding. Ideally, and this is what we're going to be going for in the second attempt here, you can pre-fire that arrow at a specific position. And I think it's actually best to just like let it play out when it does happen again. But we also see the save here can be very frustrating. And this is usually where you will start over if you die at any point during the boss fights. You have to do this wind bomb again to get to the boss fights in the first place, and then do that setup again to fire that mysterious arrow into nothingness. We will eventually see what this will be good for. Alex, on the other end, now also creating the level 3 attacker potion, actually catching up. Only 2 wind bombs away from entering the Sanctum as well. So again, going for the pre-fire.
Should be fine this time.
And this time, yeah, Windblade looks a little bit different. Looks like he doesn't feel too good.
He's a bit unwell.
I think he just doesn't want to actually show up today.
Nah.
And he leaves.
Weekend.
So this is the Windblight skip. By pre-firing an arrow into where Windblight is going to spawn, that arrow actually gets stuck in the air and will constantly do damage to Windblight in the cutscene. That's why Windblight's head was shaking. So Windblight was constantly taking damage from the arrow that was stuck in the air, and enough damage actually for Windblight to just die. And that not only kills the boss, but it also skips, for example, the transition cutscene between phase 1 and 2, the one that we see now here during Waterblight. Very quick beginning there to Waterblight phase 1. Getting lots of damage, and now this is actually the first time we are really fighting anything in this run, and we are immediately fighting the final bosses of the game, where I can quickly explain some of the combat mechanics, such as double hits. We actually mentioned that earlier. When Link faces his back to an enemy while spin attacking, And very nice Moonblade skip for Alex as well. So this is actually a race in the boss fight, so anything is open here. Yeah, when Link faces his back towards an enemy while spinning, sometimes you get a double hit. So you get to hit the enemy twice. And that's actually a little dodgy. Ideally, you can take out Fireblight there if the spin hit just right. Very nice jump there to save that. We have to keep in mind here that even though in the normal mode of Breath of the Wild, which is not Master Mode, Link has something called one-shot protection, where a lot of the hard-hitting attacks will actually not kill Link, even though they would usually deal more than 3 hearts of damage. Some attacks do not count for this, and specifically the Blights and specifically Calamity Ganon will just ignore that. So this is actually super scary. You can just get one shot here. Now phase 2 Fireblight, I can barely explain what's happening. I mean, this is pretty much a spin to win for the most part. You drink your level 3 attacker potion, and then you use those double hits that you get while facing your back to the enemy to do lots of damage. You have super powerful weapons, the Royal Claymore, the Royal Guards Claymore, which we'll use later. But now Thunderblight, always a notorious super hard boss. First, we want to break Thunderblight's shield, and then again, spin to win. Another thing that I talked about earlier is the boomerang that we picked up from the Lizalfos. That's going to be super helpful in this fight. Very clean phase 1, I was going to say, but maybe missed like a hit there. I think usually he can die to that Claymore throw. It's fine. Thunderblight basically barely got a chance to say anything, and that's what we like to see after dying to him 16 times in our casual playthrough. Now this is where the Lizalfos boomerang is going to come into play. We've already used it quite a bit, but throwing that boomerang against Thunderblight's shield will break it, allowing us to headshot him, so he can't even do his notorious like steel beam attack. And again, he's still dizzy, getting lots of spin attacks, and that's it. That's the Blights. Now, very impressive, fast Blights from Sly. However, if you die to Calamity Ganon, the final boss, basically true final boss, Dark Beast is a pushover, you have to do all of the Blights again, which is super frustrating. And obviously loses a lot of time. Now there's 10 bomb barrels in this arena, which is very nice, and another Royal Claymore, so the game gives us some free equipment, which is great for us because we barely even played the game. So getting some stuff for free is nice. But what matters in this fight, specifically with the route that Sly went for, is, oh my god, very clean. I can't even explain. Is getting lots of headshots because obviously you do double damage. Sly going for the parry there, which is with this route required, which allows us to get tons of hits in with the Royal Guards Claymore. You could see how much damage Calamity Ganon was taking there. A parry, crouching to cancel the animation of the parry. Flurry Rush, I can barely explain what's happening. Calamity Ganon, okay, the Flurry Rush is completely missing. Link is hitting the air right now. I don't even know what's happening. That's frustrating because that Flurry Rush would be important for some extra damage. You want to pay attention that you deal as much damage as possible here, because as you can see, Sly's bow just broke. That Royal Guard's bow, while it does lots of damage, has very bad durability, but gets the next Flurry Rush, and this looks like this might end the first phase of Calamity Ganon. There's like 16 things that I couldn't explain in time. Oh god. Okay, going for the parry. Amazing moment there. That's actually clutch, because if the shield, I don't know if Sly did have an extra shield, if the shield was going to break there, the phase 2 would have been tremendously harder, because you do actually have to go for a parry again here. This shield around Ganon is unbreakable unless you go for that laser parry. Sly gets it first try. That laser would have killed him. And now we go for something called a stun lock. We want to manage our stamina accordingly here. Spin just right to deal a perfect amount of damage to Ganon before he can recover. This will actually allow us to keep Ganon's shield down while still doing a lot of damage to Ganon. So phase 2 is basically just that laser parry and then keeping calm and getting that spin just right every time without running out of stamina. Cutting it a little bit closer, but very nice damage. Is this going to be enough? That was an amazing Ganon from Sly there. Amazing parries, reacting to the Flurry Rush just right, even though Link was hitting the air there for a little bit, don't know why. I could barely even explain everything there. Ganon has like 16 different attacks, and we can see on Alex's screen when he goes to the wall, he just starts gaining like a completely new moveset, which can be super annoying. Those probably also some of the worst attacks that Ganon can do, cutting it quite close at the AoE, almost hitting, but still reacting in time. Now, Alex has a lot more arrows. She's not going to have to go for that phase 1 parry into the spin attack, which is definitely quite hard to do. Again, if you miss the parry timing on Calamity Ganon, you die. No matter how much HP... I mean, if you have full life, you will still die. You have to do all of the fights again. Alex, also a different bow, the Royal Bow here, additionally, which is going to allow her to stay safe and get some extra shots in. This looks very clean so far. While Sly has now reached a pushover. Dark Beast Ganon. This fight is essentially a glorified cutscene. There's some ways you can save time here, like shooting your arrows a little bit earlier to hit those marks just in time. But that's pretty much it. Again, once Calamity Ganon for Alex goes onto the wall here, he gains a new moveset. This is one of the attacks that you can actually deal with using a shield parry. It's quite a slow attack, and when you get that parry, eventually Ganon is going to come down. Looking good here. Phase 1 completed. Phase 2, not free. Definitely big difficulty spike with the shield parry. And then sometimes Ganon doesn't even do the laser and decides to just go to the wall and get really weird. Very nice parry there. Now transitioning over to the stun lock. Sly waiting for the last body shot here. And is now gonna ride in front of Dark Beast. Getting ready to aim for the final shot. And there we go. Time for Sly. Very clean boss fights towards the end. Overall, amazing race performance. Let's see the Ganon fight here for Alex. Calamity Ganon recovering a little bit too quickly. Quite low on health though. Still some attack potion left. That was important to stay cool. Maybe get one more parry in and then finish the fight off. But Ganon can be extremely hard to deal with. And these lasers can actually just end Link. You got this. Eventually Ganon will come down, and since we are playing speedruns on normal mode, there's not going to be any health recovery. Going for the parry there with the nice attack. I like to see it. One more spin attack here should do it, and Calamity Ganon down as well. That was a very nicely done.
He was so mean.
Definitely mean. That's rare to see. Both runners getting Calamity Ganon, and this is something that will happen to anyone. The best players, these guys, amazing players, and this happens all the time. Calamity Ganon will just win at some of these times because he will go to the wall, give you the worst attacks. You might miss the parry, but both runners getting Calamity Ganon first try, and pretty much just Dark Beast between them. Even though we've seen like different routes, different strats. I would say that was a pretty amazing showing. Maybe this is also a good time for the runners to say something too, as I was basically talking the entire time. Dark Beast again. You can technically die here if you get hit by the laser, but other than that, it's pretty much just shooting targets.
We've all done that, it's okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sly? Any thoughts?
Any thoughts? I reckon
about your race?
That run was pretty good, except for Castle being a bit unfortunate with the low angle twice. Causing a bit of problems with the gate loading in, and then having to reload again, and funnily enough,
the Guardian there was annoying.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's also a good showcase of that hitbox, specifically that leg hitbox being a little bit out of place.
It's awful sometimes.
But yeah, I would agree. Pretty clean plateau, pretty clean overall. And then on the second try, when actually getting to Castle, I thought those boss fights, when the Windblade skip did work, were pretty clean to me. Not too much to do, too much to improve. There was this one weird flurry rush, but nice parries. Even going for the ideal animation cancels there. Usually when you parry, Link kind of like slows down. You can crouch too, so it looks really cool too, in my opinion. Had to save some time there.
I've got a couple of donations here, if you guys don't mind, while you're at this last fight up.
Absolutely,
go
absolutely,
for it.
absolutely.
Oh, perfect. I have $30 from Smev, who says, so proud of Alex and Sly. Such an incredible race for such a great cause. Thank you so much, Smev, for the $30.
Smev.
If there's anything you want your $30 to go to incentive-wise, please let me know in the chat, and I'll add it to the incentive board. And then $1 from Kengan with no comment. Thank you again, both of you, for the donations. Again, if either of you guys want your money to go towards an incentive, that's in the if you type in ! incentives into the chat, I'll be happy to add it in there for you guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for those donos.
And you guys also have $10 each to go towards an incentive from Tim earlier before the run started.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, love. Thank you.
All right, looks like we're gonna be wrapping up here. And I would say those were some impressive race times, honestly.
GG's.
GG, Sly, well done.
Thank you. You too.
Oh, that was like a lot closer than I thought it would be. That was scary.
Pretty tight.
No, definitely, I agree. Some cool moments there. You guys basically met each other in the dining hall because of the different routing, and then you were tied for a little bit during the BTB section. Definitely very cool to watch, and for a good cause. I mean, I had fun. I hope you guys did too. And I think this is probably a good chance for. I mean, maybe you want to say some stuff about your run too. If there's anything pointing out worth to point out, Alex, before you guys maybe think of somebody to shout out, something to say.
Honestly, firstly, you did an amazing job commentating, so thank you. I mean, I guess if anyone's interested in getting involved with speedrunning, we have a community, we have a Discord. We're all very, very welcoming. It's kind of wild to think that I once learnt from watching Limcube tutorials, and Limcube's here now going and commentating with us. So if you guys want to learn, there's heaps of resources available. But yeah, no, and also thank you to the staff who set this up and help us sort of organize everything. It is really great, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I had fun.
Yes. Thank you very much, Lim, for commentating. I appreciate it. I also learned from your tutorials. Even when BTBs first came out, I tried learning it, gave up, and then tried it again a year and a half later. And then
yeah, I mean, for us, we even originated from the same. Actually, I don't know if you ran anything before Odyssey, but that's cool. That's cool.
I remember Lim taught me how to do. I think Lim taught me how to do the bomb shrine, in person. I remember that. But no, it was so much fun. I'm genuinely surprised at how close it was. So no, thank you for having us. It was really fun.
Yes, thank you for having us. Thank you.
You guys, that was incredible. That was such a fun race.
I agree. Thank you for having us again.
Thank you guys.